Hi, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Susan Buchser-Lochocki, presidential candidate with the Green Party, and I'm here to read you, I think, and you know what, we'll just do it. It's going to be the last section of this book. If you were there when they signed the Constitution. So I'll just keep reading until I finish. If we go over 8 minutes, then we go over 8 minutes. Yeah, I guess we can't go over 10 though. I'll do my best. So, how did the convention end? By September, the delegates were ready to go home. They had been hard at work for almost 4 months. The delegates voted to give everything they had done to a committee to see if the writing was clear and understandable. Governor Morris was known as the best writer, so the committee gave the job to him. He wasn't supposed to change things, just check the spelling and grammar. But Morris was not above putting a few of his own words. Just look what he did with the very first line. It had read, we the people of the states of North Carolina, Virginia, Massachusetts, etc. Morris changed it to, we the people of the United States. What a difference, because Morris was right. If the Constitution was accepted, we would be a people united by our new law. What happened when the delegates signed the Constitution? On September 17th, the day they were all to sign the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin had written a speech. He tried to get up and give it, but he felt too weak. He asked his friend and fellow delegate from Philadelphia, James Wilson, to read it for him. Franklin said that there were many things in the Constitution he didn't agree with, but many a time in my life I have been absolutely sure I was right, only to change my mind a year or two later. Some people never change their minds. They are always rather ridiculous. I once knew a dowager who told me her sister said to her, I don't know how it happens, sister, but I meet with nobody but myself that is always in the right. Luther Martin and many other delegates who didn't like the Constitution had already gone home. Only 3 delegates who were there refused to sign. George Mason refused to sign the Constitution because it had no Bill of Rights. Edmund Randolph of Virginia always had a hard time making up his mind, and he refused. He was worried he might be on the wrong side. Elderbridge Gerry of Massachusetts also refused, but people call him a Grumbletonian, someone who always grumbled. One by one, the other delegates, 39 in all, came forward to sign the document. Each dipped the quill pen into the ink bottle and wrote his name carefully. Finally, George Washington had to get up from his chair to write his name. Benjamin Franklin looked at the empty chair. Franklin said, painters always have a hard time showing the difference between a rising and a setting sun. I have often, said he, looked at that sun behind the president without being able to tell whether it was rising or setting. But now I have the happiness to know that it is a rising and not a setting sun. How did the 13 states approve or ratify the new Constitution? The Constitution had been written in secret. Now the delegates were going to find out what everyone else thought. The delegates knew how hard it was to get all the 13 states to agree on anything. They said the Constitution had to be approved by just 9 states in order to become law of the land. They had come a long way. When they met in May, they were not even sure they should write a constitution. Now they not only had one, but they were saying it would go into effect even if all states wouldn't agree. Each state would have to elect 4 delegates to a convention to vote yea or nay to the Constitution. Newspapers published the Constitution, and almost everyone had an opinion about it, good or bad. George Washington called it a novel and astonishing spectacle of a whole people deliberating calmly on what form of government will be the most conducive to their happiness. Many people didn't like the Constitution because it had no Bill of Rights. We promised to put one in, said some supporters of the Constitution, and that was indeed one of the first things the new government did. They are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, added in 1791. Many people thought things were fine under the Articles of Confederation, but the people who wanted the Constitution had a big advantage over the people who didn't like it. The Constitution was exciting because it was new, and it was written down. All those who didn't like it could just grumble about what they didn't like. When did we become the United States? The fiercest battles for approval were fought in Virginia and New York. For a while, it looked as if the Constitution would lose these states. Then, just before the 4th of July in 1788, the Constitutional Convention in Virginia and New York voted yea. New Hampshire had approved the Constitution a few days earlier, so now there were more than enough states where was I? More than enough states for the nation to begin. Let me take a sip of water. What a 4th of July they celebrated that year. In New York City, 10 white horses pulled a full-size gunship down the street. They called the ship the Alexander Hamilton. In Philadelphia, a ship renamed the Rising Sun boomed its cannons as 5,000 paraders got ready to march. One of the floats, called the Constitution, was a carriage built in the shape of an eagle.